What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. We are super excited to welcome a special guest onto the episode today to share her experience about toxic relationships. We are super grateful that this even happened. She drove all the way from Arizona to be with us, so let's get right into the episode. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. Super excited for today's episode. And Dal, before we get into the trademarked 2-minute takeaways, first we need to welcome our special guest. Liz, welcome to the studio.
Thank you. Super happy to be here.
All right. We're very glad to have you and even more excited to get into the topic for today, which we will do. But first, we have to do 2-minute takeaways.
Yeah, I think at some point, too, we should explain how cool it is that Liz is here in person.
We're going to get
Which
to
we'll get, I think we'll get to.
Naturally.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of part of my takeaway, too.
Awesome.
So.
Oh, shit. Okay.
I'll set the tone.
There we go.
Tone, yeah, tone setter.
So, Dal, I feel like you're kind of in the hot seat for the first takeaway.
I am. Yeah. Disclaim. Well, no, we'll let everyone find out organically.
Okay.
So, my 2-minute takeaway, let's see here, dude. So, I'm getting a haircut on Wednesday, and my barber, Barbarette, she's a female barber. Colette the Barbarette.
Yep.
Shout out to Colette.
We shout Colette out a lot on the show.
Yeah, she's the best.
We love Colette.
Dude, so she's talking to me. I see her every month, right? That's like once a month. I go see her. And we're always talking. We're like for an hour. Like it feels like a podcast when I'm talking with Colette.
Side note, we need to get her on the show.
We totally should.
Yeah.
And off the air, I'll tell you some cool stuff about Colette that you'll like.
I love it.
Anyways, dude, so she's like, how's your life? What's up? What are you doing for the holidays? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what I'm doing for the holidays. And I started to explain what was going on in my life, and this is why it's a weird takeaway, because there's a lot of like negative things happening, a lot of like sadness, I guess, sad situations, to keep it kind of broad. A lot of COVID, a lot of like negative health stuff, not for me, but for the people around me in my life. Family stuff, loved ones. Yeah. And I was kind of like, I was in a good mood getting my hair cut, and I was explaining these things, and I needed to explain these like sad events that were happening, because it was like answering the question, you know, like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? I was like, well, I don't really know, because there's like these things up in the air that are pending based on like people's health and livelihood and all this other stuff that's generally pretty sad and negative. And my takeaway from it was like saying all that out loud, bringing all this up. I was like, holy shit. I apologized to her. I'm like, yeah, sorry. Like that was pretty dark. Like I didn't mean to like go down like that road. We kind of just got there, and yeah, like that was a pretty shitty explanation of like why I don't know what I'm doing for the holidays. But I was like, hey, that's just my life right now. She was like, dude, don't worry about it. Like, I'm so sorry. And like all this like supportive feedback, I guess. And so the takeaway was I didn't even really notice how it was like affecting me, because I kind of just kept pushing it to the side. And I guess my takeaway, right, bringing it back to something to be grateful for, is I'm very proud of how I'm dealing with it. I'm very like happy with working through these like negative life situations. And it's not like dampering my shine. I'm not crumbling or like succumbing to just your normal experience of life that we all go through. And one of the things that's been really helpful is that I forget where I heard it or who said it, but the idea that like death brings us way closer to life. And I've been kind of sitting with that and living with that, and just noticing that people getting closer to dying, or people getting closer to like leaving here, Earth, their existence, has made me far more grateful for experiences like this in everyday living in life. And I've been able to like reflect on that. So that's my big takeaway, is as sad as things can be and as shitty as things can be, on the other side of that coin is life. And I'm really enjoying it. And I did want to put the disclaimer that this takeaway was going to be pretty raw, you know, or real. But I guess you just found out about that without me having to disclaim it.
Wow.
So that's me. That's my takeaway. Another takeaway is that Liz is here. That's fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to get into that and why that's so cool.
Yeah. Great.
So there's
takeaway.
me.
Great takeaway, Dal. I got to say, dude, I'm in your corner pretty
I know
close,
that.
pretty closely. And, you got a lot going on, man.
A lot going on, dude.
It's an inspiration to see you navigate it all the way you do.
Thank you, man. I
mean
appreciate
that.
that.
Yeah.
And a quote came to mind, actually, because
Don't forget.
I won't forget it. But I don't remember who I was talking to, but we were talking about death, right? And somewhere in the conversation, we were just kind of riffing back and forth, and it was like, yeah, I mean, you know, it's like, yeah, we're every day we're closer to death, pretty much. Like we're all just kind of inching our way towards that. And it was kind of this realization of like, we die once, but every day we live. And that's nice. It's a good perspective reminder, you know?
Yodo, dude.
Yeah, dude.
You only die once.
Yeah, that's right.
You only die once, but you get to live every day.
Every day, dude.
That's it.
And so, man, cheers to you, Dal. Thanks for that takeaway.
Cheers.
Cheers. Liz?
Cheers.
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 Should we
Cheers
do
to the
it? Should we
takeaway.
do it?
Yeah, we're cheers.
Let's
man.
do it. Yeah.
There's no booze in this studio. As
Yeah, just
our audience
LaCroix,
knows.
water. Just 3 different versions of water, honestly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yours is caffeine though.
Yeah, that's true, but it's brewed through water.
There
And
we
I have
go.
water,
There it is.
but I have more caffeine.
So, Liz, you are next.
All right,
for the 2-minute
I'll go.
takeaway.
So first of all, being here with you guys, obviously, very grateful that I even gotten connected with you guys. And then that also leads to my kind of like weekly takeaway. So for everyone listening, I am from Phoenix and basically decided to road trip out here. And you guys offered to do it over Skype. And I was like, no, I want to come and do it in person. So I made a road trip out of it. And last Saturday, so like 8 days ago now, I've been on the road in a Suburban, sleeping in a Suburban. And it's cool. I went to Joshua Tree, caught the sunrise, went to Yosemite, Sequoia, camped at the bottom of Mount Whitney. We've seen bobcats, we saw 4 bears, we saw a bald eagle, did like a glacier hike. So it's been really, really incredible. It's kind of like a dream road trip. And it's not over. It's not over. Tonight, yeah, tonight we go to Pinnacle National Park.
Sick.
And we're going to do Big Sur and everything and finally go home on Thursday.
That's awesome.
Damn.
Good takeaway.
That's
Yeah.
a sick takeaway.
And for me, as you'll kind of learn more through my story, is I have been like very shut off to guys and everything. And I met this guy that came with me, and it's been great. Like we haven't had any issues, and I mean we met 5 weeks ago.
There we go.
So it was pretty nerve wracking inviting him on this, but we haven't had any issues, and being able to literally live in a car with somebody and not have a minute away from each other for 13 days. For me, like I'm really proud of the way
You
it's been
should,
going.
yeah.
You should be proud.
Yeah. So
That's a
Dude,
feat.
That is a
Yeah.
feet and a half.
Yeah.
A lot
It
of
is.
a lot of firsts for Liz.
yeah, it's great.
There we go.
Good for you. That's
a-
awesome.
That's a sick takeaway.
That
I'm
is.
super happy.
Me too.
For the audience, as Liz was explaining her road trip, I just was like smiling. you
Yeah.
know? Just like it's like so fucking cool.
Yeah, bald eagle too.
Yeah,
Like, dude.
over this like beautiful glacier lake. I'll
Oh
show
my
you guys
God.
a picture later.
I was
but
about to say, I'm sure you got the pics.
It was.
Yeah.
We didn't get the bald eagle, but the lake was incredible. It was right like by Mount Whitney, and it was just snowy. We hiked up in the snow. It was incredible.
That's
I
awesome.
love that she's going to all the places us locals have never
Yeah.
been.
Oh yeah, no, totally. Yeah, I've never been to any of these places.
No, me neither, dude.
You'll make it.
We'll
Yeah.
make it.
You'll make it.
Well,
I believe in
We'll
you.
do it. We'll do it.
We're inspired.
That's right.
Yeah. I'll just send you a picture every day from my trip
Until
until
we
you
go.
go.
Yeah.
Don't forget, here are the directions.
Yep.
It's like
Yeah.
right in your backyard.
Yeah,
I
literally.
came out here from Phoenix.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, man. Okay, good, Liz. Thank you. So I'm reading this book. It's called A Course in Miracles. And
You recommend?
yes.
Yeah.
But it comes with disclaimer that it's a pretty big leap if it's your first experience with like kind of a spiritual text.
Mm-hmm.
Because even for me, I mean, I read a bunch of Eckhart, I got you on A New Earth and
Yeah.
stuff, and that stuff, the more you read and understand, the crazier everything seems. This is like the craziest shit I've ever read in my life.
It looks kind of magical from the
it does,
text.
right?
It's like
Well,
a wizard book.
And you'll notice on the cover,
does.
it doesn't have an author, right? And it's because the people that put it together didn't write it; they channeled it. That's like what we're talking about here. dude.
Okay, I got
So
it.
the first chapter, I'm reading it, and the guy who recommended it to me, I called him
Mm-hmm.
at like 10:30 at night, and I was like, "Dude, what's the fucking idea here, man? Like, what are you doing? Why am I reading this? And he's like, "How far into it are you?" And I said, "A chapter." He's like, "Okay, good. Yeah, this sounds about right." But I wanted to read an excerpt,
Yeah.
if that's all right, just to give you a little bit of flavor. So there's these daily lessons, right? Lessons or practices, right? And one of them, this one, it says, "My salvation comes from me." Okay, so I'm just going to read a little bit. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it says, "All temptation is nothing more than some form of the basic temptation not to believe the idea for today, that my salvation comes from me. Salvation seems to come from anywhere except you. So too does the source of guilt. You see neither guilt nor salvation as in your own mind and nowhere else. When you realize that all guilt is solely an invention of your mind, you also realize that guilt and salvation must be in the same place. In understanding this, you are saved." The seeming cost of accepting today's idea is this. It means that nothing outside of yourself can save you. Nothing outside yourself can give you peace. But it also means that nothing outside yourself can hurt you or disturb your peace or upset you in any way. Today's idea places you in charge of the universe, where you belong because of what you are. This is not a role that can be partially accepted, and you must surely begin to see that accepting it is true salvation.
Wow.
Bro. So what I took from that was really in line with today's topic, which we're so excited to have Liz here to explore with us. And that is toxic relationships, right? And we were kind of riffing outside before we jumped in here. And what I was kind of sitting with and what I've been sitting with for the last couple weeks, it's, shown up at work with some clients. It's shown up with people in my circle. And that is that now, really more than ever that I've experienced or seen, people are in these relationships, right? And because of COVID and the limitations and the shelter in place and whatever, they're really, it's a lot harder to be with or be in or get out of.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I like this reading from this book so much is because it really does, to me at least, remind me that we are all powerful, right? And when you're in a toxic relationship, it does not feel like that.
No.
Right?
No.
It feels like I've got no options. I got nowhere to go. I got nothing, no
Nobody-
way.
Nobody to lean on
Yeah,
but that person.
exactly. And so I thought that we could use today's space for Liz to kind of share her experience with toxic relationships. And what I'm really curious around, Dal, and we'll see what you're kind of curious with too, is the other side of a toxic relationship. Because so often people don't get out of them because without this, what do I have? Right?
Yeah.
How's that sound, Dal?
That sounds perfect. I'm just as curious as I'm just as curious about the same thing. My work, where I work, I do toxic relationships with every client that comes to the program.
That's right.
So it's kind of like not to like toot my own horn, but like a wheelhouse conversation.
For sure.
know?
Yeah.
Obviously with addiction, it's very like negative and dark, and it's kind of like the standard is like someone comes to treatment with a bunch of shitty relationships, including the relationship with themselves.
Amen.
So it's always a topic we dive right into pretty thoroughly. And it's a topic that's near and dear to me as well.
Me too.
And I'm just kind of excited. You know, I think I don't know the story, Liz's story, to be clear. But I'm sure there's a shit ton of parallels with our audience and our listeners and even with us.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
100%, man.
So that's what I would have to say.
Cool. So that being said, Liz, how do we start this thing?
Well, I'm going to take it back a little bit.
Okay.
But as we discussed, I'm not going to go into too much detail that we don't need. But yeah, I do want to take it back because I kind of think my upbringing sets the tone for how I got into the situations I was in.
Of course.
So basically my parents were kind of the people that shouldn't have got married, you know, shouldn't have got pregnant at their age they did, 19. My parents were divorced before I was even born, and I basically just grew up with my mom, single parent. My dad was pretty verbally abusive to my mom, so she protected me from that. And so I'd see my dad like 5 days out of the year. It was spring break. It was always like I'd go to Texas and visit him for spring break, and it was the worst, most dreaded 5 days of the year every time. It was always like my two older brothers and me. And my dad sitting in an apartment, just watching sports, and they just ganged up on me. We just fight and fight and fight.
Yeah.
So they would basically just like bully up on me. And my dad was just like very verbally abusive.
Got it.
He always like made fun of my body a lot as a little girl. Would like just call me fat, and like I wasn't. And even if I was, you know, you just don't say that. And
for sure.
Yeah. And he like, I remember one time he had a girlfriend that, took me shop. This is just kind of an example of like how he was and how it kind of like shaped me. His girlfriend took me shopping and bought me this cute tankini, and I was like 8, and I'd never owned anything like that. And I came back and modeled it for him, and he like scoffed at me and said, "You look like a whore."
Oh, wow.
And when I was like 8 or 9. So
that's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Ooh. I did want to circle back. Did you say tankini?
Yeah.
Tankini. Yeah. It's like a bikini with a skirt.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're
We're with
okay.
the bros.
Yeah.
We're with the bros. Yeah.
Tankini.
Yeah.
Both of us
tankini.
just.
I didn't know if it was like a foreign article
I
or
was
something.
gonna explain
Yeah.
it, but then I was like,
Like
I'll
the bros
just keep
know.
going.
Yeah.
I'll
The
just-
bros have a tankini.
Anyway.
Well, now we know.
Now we know.
Now you
dude.
know. Yeah, it was just something like I grew up very conservative, so I never owned anything like that.
Got
And
it,
then
okay.
She took me shopping. So yeah, but I was like 8, you know, so I just, immediately.
bummer.
Yeah. I started developing body dysmorphia from my dad, like very young age, and just insecurities and not having a father around at all in general, just really, you know, abandonment issues, attachment issues. So yeah, I kind of just went to high school. I was very impressionable, got into drugs and partying, and
Makes 3 of us.
yeah.
Yeah, we've got some experience with
Yeah.
that, I think. Yeah.
Can relate.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Eventually I kind of got out of it, got to a more normal high school routine, and still partying, but more normal, and got connected with a guy from a different school. There's a school that's like 5 miles away that much smaller than ours. Is like 700 students as opposed to like 3,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. We just had this like unhealthy, inseparable connection before we even were dating or anything. And just like, I knew I was in love with him in love, you know, quote unquote, but before we even dated. And I started dating when I turned 17. And it immediately just was like, we were just isolated, connected, so intense, and fighting immediately. Like 3 weeks after we started dating, I went to Hawaii with his family and him.
Gotcha.
And the whole trip, we just fought. Like he almost bought me a plane ticket home. It was just like the most dramatic, like dragged out fights. Yeah, it was. He ruined
Hawaii.
In Hawaii.
Damn,
He
dude.
ruined everything. Our prom, he bailed an hour before prom when I was getting ready because I didn't text him back fast enough at my friend's house. You know, things like
Yeah.
that. It was very controlling, and every time there was a fight, like in Hawaii or for prom, it was always my fault. You know, it was, I didn't text him back fast enough to let him know the plan. So he was not going to go anymore. So, and every time it was my fault, it gave him more power.
course.
more control. And this is junior year of high school, 17. And then that summer we had some really big blow up fight and over something stupid, of course. And that gave him like the ultimate power over me kind of. And I was very codependent, very, you know, like from my dad issues.
For sure.
So I was in it, and on top of that, I like thought he was like the hottest thing ever. I was like so
that didn't help that you were in love with him.
No, not at all. It quote unquote. Yeah. And so then we would go into senior year, different high schools, but it was basically he said I was going to be in a relationship with him, but he wasn't going to tell people he was in a relationship with me as like punishment. Everything was always punishment, you know.
Of course. Wow.
I wasn't allowed to have Facebook. Like I had to delete, you know, and I just.
Yeah. Toxic.
I just
got it.
Oh yeah. It gets worse. Yeah. So we go into senior year. He's on the football team, and I always have to sit with his family at the football games, can't talk to anybody. And just kind of like find out, like he tells me, you know, I'm not allowed to have a Facebook, but he tells me he doesn't have one either. So it's supposed to be mutual. And then I find out things like he does have one, and, you know, and just all these little things. So then it was Halloween, our senior year of high school, and I was working at a local restaurant, and he got off work and went to his house, and we got in a fight over something, like a picture. He put like a naked picture of a girl in his background of his phone.
You gotcha.
Know, like,
yeah, that's upsetting though. That's
not like a famous person, but still. Yeah.
Still, I mean,
in high school too.
Yeah, that's like whoa.
Yeah.
That's kind of a big leap.
Yeah. So I was like annoyed, and I wanted to see his phone. He wouldn't show me his phone. He like wouldn't, you know, he like stuffed down this in his, we were at his apartment. His parents were in Denver half the time. So we had this place to ourselves a lot, which was for high school unhealthy.
Yeah.
And
too much freedom for high school.
Way too much. Yeah. So, I remember, I don't know, we're just fighting, and he was just going at me, calling me names, and just like really pushing me. And I like snapped, and I punched him in the arm.
Gotcha.
And that punch in the arm turned into like probably 3 hours of like physical brawling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It got, I don't even know. It's been like 10 years. So it's like hard for me to even imagine what happened in that time period. But like, it just turned into like physical just for hours. I don't know how we didn't get the cops called on us because we were in an apartment. But eventually I left and went to school the next day. I had school the next day. I don't even know how I was at his house that late, but going to first hour, I have it with my best friend, and I show her I had bruises all up and down my arms. And so I show her just kind of out of shock, you know.
For sure.
I'm totally not in my right mind. And she knew we fought a lot. So to me, it was like no big deal.
Just another fight type of deal.
Yeah. And she was like, this isn't okay, you know. And I'm just like, it's fine. Like I instigated it. And like third hour comes around, I get pulled out of class by security. My mom's out front with the police officer, you know, the school officer. And my mom's like telling me I need to show her my arms, and I'm refusing. And my mom kind of didn't have a lot of control over me. It was kind of like what I wanted to do, I did. Yeah. So then I don't know, it just kind of continued. Once you get past a certain line, it's so easy to do that or worse.
Continue to like go past it. Yeah.
When you get that far, it's
once
hard to go back.
Once the Band-Aid's ripped off, just kind of reeling it back in.
Yeah.
So it's like the new norm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then that just gave him more control over me. And it just continued to get worse. And so my senior year, I was just like super depressed.
Yeah.
I wasn't like, he got to the point I wasn't allowed to text people without his permission.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He said that about my family, and I was like, no, like I'm responding to my family. I live with them. Like what?
For sure.
It was crazy. So I spent my senior year. I like pretty much stopped eating. I was just like sitting in my room, just so depressed. So my mom had me go to therapy. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I'm really lucky because a lot of people in this situation don't have the right resources. But my mom, she's actually a speaker and a trainer on mental health and personality disorders.
Oh,
like
hell
around, yeah. So we were able to kind of like, all right, this is probably what's going on, you know. Right. So I'm super, super lucky in that way. I was able to like go to my therapist and be like, this is what's wrong with me. Yeah. And my first therapist, she like Googled what I told her because basically like I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder.
Gotcha.
But she didn't even know what that was really. She was like Googling
that's
it
kind of a red flag.
Yeah.
Therapy wise.
Yeah. Luckily she was like moved recently, like short after that, and some other girl took her place, and she was like all about borderline personality disorder. So she was like my godsend. But yeah, so I pretty much like, for people that don't know it, I don't know if you guys probably know a little bit.
I'd like to kind of share some about it for the people listening that don't know. Yeah.
And I'll share like a little bit of my stance on it. Cause there's a really bad stigma on it for sure. It's like the crazy girl that's gonna like murder her boyfriend. Whereas people don't like understand it unless you've experienced it. Same with addiction, you know, like I could never understand the addiction end of things cause I'm not an addict. But I know like borderline personality disorder, it described to people that don't have it as emotional pain being equivalent to 3rd-degree burns all over your body. So if you can imagine that. Yeah, that's sad.
Intense.
You can, if you wanted to say something on it.
Yeah, I mean, it is really heavily stigmatized because, you know, people mix it up a lot with
bipolar
or schizophrenia, where it's not that things aren't there.
Yeah.
It's that the things that are here have the volume way turned up.
Yeah, it's super
you can't
intense.
Control.
And you
Yeah,
can't control
impulses.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so, and it's true. And that's like why Mental Health Month exists, because, you know, there's people walking around, especially right now, that are having a really tough go. And when they have psychotic breaks, rather than say, hey, what do you need? How can I support you? It's like, let me film you and call you Karen and slap it all over the internet. But, with even bipolar and personality disorders, it's the same feelings that we all have, just amplified.
Yeah.
Because, as a trauma response, usually to childhood or early life, where as we're developing, we're told or we're taught or not taught that the emotions that we have are inappropriate in some way. And it's fucked up. And then when later in life, the way it shows up is, things that ordinarily wouldn't hurt as bad hurt really, really bad.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And with borderline, it's kind of really related with attachment. It's an attachment disorder. So when you feel like, you're losing even like a response from a boyfriend or something, a text response feels off. Like you feel like you're losing that person and you can't handle that pain.
Of course.
So so that I was dealing with that. And that gave him, of course, more like, I'm the crazy one. You're the one with the, I'm the one with the personality disorder, everything.
More ammo to kind of make you wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
Leverage for control,
Yeah. And then I found out that he was like cheating on me, and I don't know. I found out he was doing steroids during football season too. So that probably made things 10,000 times worse. But
okay.
Yeah. But I don't know. Things started to get better. Throughout senior year, he actually pulled it together for prom. I don't know how. But then graduation came, and he totally ruined my graduation. And then his graduation night, there was like a casino night after at his school. So we went to that, and we're having a good time. And then I was across the room, and I saw a girl that he cheated on me with come and sit next to him.
Gotcha.
So I'm like, hell no, no.
Yeah.
So I go and sit on his lap, like get her away. And then after, we're driving back to my place, and of course it gets brought up. And he was going to sleep at my parents that night, just in a different room. And he told me he wasn't going to anymore because I brought it up. And going back to the attachment thing with borderline, I couldn't handle that. So I'm like begging him, like, no, please, like, stay here. And he was just like, no, I'm not. And he just drives off with me in the car. And he tells me he's going to take me to the middle of the desert and just like dump me in the desert and leave me.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in my mind, I don't know if he ever would have. I don't know. But in my mind, that's what's true. That's
what
what's
he
happening.
said, right?
Yeah. And I'm already having the high anxiety from, everything. So we're driving, and he's heading away. And I just know if I can, I'm like begging him, like, just let me out here. I can walk home. And I knew if I like got out here, it wouldn't be a far walk. So I jumped out of the car with it going like 45 miles an hour.
Holy shit, Liz.
Yeah. Graduation night. Yeah. Senior graduation night. And we're also supposed to be moving in together in like 2 months, going straight into college. Like, stupidest idea ever. So I go to the hospital, whatever, everything checks out, but definitely had brain trauma that I never dealt with from that. I mean, I'm assuming,
Physical and emotional? Or like
I think a little physical more than because I didn't have a concussion, but I mean things just got 10,000 times worse for me after that, like depression.
Of course.
And I struggled with social anxiety my whole life, but that relationship made it 5,000 times worse, you know?
Yeah, well, you weren't allowed to be social, or being social was wrong.
Yeah, anything I did was wrong. Yeah, so like even pumping gas, I would have a mad anxiety attacks, like driving, everything. So then I'm going into ASU my freshman year into this, you know, psychotic relationship, and we're moving in together, and I just, I pretty much skipped out on all my classes. I had like a 1.6 GPA that semester, and like us moving in together, things just got 5 million times worse. You know, it was just fight all the time. And I was so depressed. I couldn't even get out of bed most of the time, but things just got real crazy. And like,
I'd say so.
Yeah. I mean, our fights, they just got, I don't know. It was, you know, like it went from kind of like brawling to like, he kind of had power moves over me. So his like go-to was always putting his hand over my mouth and nose to stop me from breathing. And like he'd be on top of me. I mean, he's a big football guy, and he became like really bad with drinking.
Got it.
And so as his drinking got worse, the less control he had over himself during a physical fight. So I had to learn all these ways to like, even if I would maybe even instigate the fight, or, you know, I definitely played a part. I'm not going to sit here and act like, oh, it's just perfect. But I had to like navigate how to get out of him so he would, you know, let me breathe. So eventually like he kicked me out, but I was still there all the time. I moved in with a friend, he moved in with a friend, and things just got even worse. Where do we go?
Yeah, check the notes, Liz. You're doing great.
Yeah, you're crushing it.
Yeah, you're doing great.
Yeah, but so at this point I was same thing, so depressed. I mean, I looked like I was on hardcore drugs just from like the depression. I was teeny skinny, like
bags under your eyes, maybe.
Yeah, oh yeah, my
Got it.
pictures from Christmas with my family. I looked horrible. So I actually got on medication. I think it was Seroquel.
Seroquel,
Heard of
yeah.
it?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like antipsychotic.
Psychotic,
Kind of like
right?
it's an
Yeah,
antipsychotic. Kind of like antidepressant mix. And the main reason they wanted me to go on was because the impulse control, having no impulse control, this like blocked that.
Oh yeah.
So those definitely helped. But I remember one day I was like staring at the wall, and I was like, I have no emotions.
Yeah.
So
that's the cons of taking it.
Yeah.
You can't.
Can be for sure, yeah.
yeah. So I stopped the next day.
Oh, you took it one time?
No, I took it for like
Oh, got it.
yeah, that was
Got
like
it.
8-10 months or so.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, not just one day.
Yeah, I was like, damn. The first time I took it, I started staring at a wall, and I was like, that's enough.
Yeah. No, it was after a while. I just
Got
one
it.
day I woke up and I was like, I have no emotion. And
That sucks too.
yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. At some point we ended things, and then my trauma was just so bad from the relationship. I couldn't like be sober ever. I was blacked out. I was in college, blacked out like 5 nights a week. But the other 2 days were like dispersed recovery days.
For sure.
Yeah, just doing like going to frat parties, just doing stupid stuff. Sorry.
No, don't be. You're doing good. Liz.
It's hard to remember your life in detail.
Yeah.
Because there's so much that had happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. That continued for a little while. And then him and I ended up reconnecting.
Oh, no.
How long
Yeah.
after?
I think it was like 3 or 4 months it was like throughout the summer.
You guys like texting sporadically? Did like the partying play a role? And like,
I can't remember, honestly.
that's all right. Sounds
I
like
think
you
we
were
probably
blacked
had
out a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But we probably texted each other, but like it probably was not nice things,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah. And he was from the neighboring high school. Like it's a very small community with
Right.
that high school. So like I had a lot of friends from there, and like I was intermixed with people that knew him. And
For sure.
And yeah. And he just had made me out to be the bad guy
Right.
in every situation, and he let everybody know, even in high school, that I was psychotic. And like it's like, well, why are you staying with me? You know, like
Yeah.
And like I remember one time I texted him something not good at all, just out of like a impulse response, and he shared it on Facebook.
Oh, no.
Yeah, twice, like a year apart.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And just things like that, would tell girls at his work things about me. And then I would go to his work. He worked at a fitness center. So I would go in and work out for free. And like these girls would just be like, know things about me, and
yeah, that's uncomfortable.
yeah,
that's the worst. I hate that. Was always the worst. Like, and we'll get to our toxic relationships, I'm sure, but the worst is when they pull stuff way out of context and share just that little sliver.
Don't show their part.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because then, like, no matter how much you try and defend that you're not the villain, you seem more villainous for doing that,
Yeah.
No one's ever going to look at it and be like, I wonder why this girl would feel this strongly about those things.
Yeah, exactly.
No one does that.
No.
Yeah. Everything for him was a punishment. Always.
For sure.
And, so we reconnected, and oh my God, what he did next was psychotic. The first night we actually like hung out again. We were like, we're exes, we're adults.
Yeah.
So we were having sex, and he took my phone and started recording. But when we were in a relationship, like sometimes just do that, whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't think too much of it. And then I found out he had recorded me on my Snapchat and sent it to like people I worked with, just like whoever he could click before I'd realize what he was doing. You know what I mean? And so I had to go to work the next day with like 3 people that saw that.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I still got back with him, and, or we're trying to work things out with him. And, things just got even, his like drinking he'd heard about things I'd done with other guys and stuff while we were broken up, just through people and stuff. And
for sure,
I don't know if it just had gotten 10,000 times worse when we got back together. And there was one night, me and my friend and him were out drinking, and we go back to my parents because they were gone. And, the nice house.
Yeah.
And he saw a text from somebody that I'd met when we were broken up. And he took it to like a level in my parents' garage. My friend was out on the phone, had me in this like lock where I knew that he, like, if I didn't get out of that, like he was going to suffocate me, and I was not going to get out of it. And I got out of him somehow, and he like ripped my hair, and I like ran, and my friend called the cops, and I ended up in the hospital.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so then he made me change my number, and like, it was just crazy. I can't remember too much after that, honestly, but because it ended pretty quickly after that.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think there came a day where I was done. I was just so.
It can only take so much.
Yeah. 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 And so then it kind of went back to, I didn't know how to handle the trauma. I was probably in and out of therapy a little bit. But yeah. And then I think, I did dialectical behavior therapy, which really helped change my life. Learning mindfulness and meditation and everything, which is a highly recommended one for people with borderline personality disorder.
Mindfulness?
DBT.
Yeah, DBT.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So that definitely helped me. And then I just started doing a lot of my own self-healing. I started, I don't know if you guys know the Elephant Journal. Just like
I don't think so. I've never heard of that.
Just like an online journal, kind of spirituality. People just post like journal writings. I don't know.
Is it kind of like a blog type of deal?
Yeah, like a blog type
okay,
thing,
cool.
I would say, kind of, but yeah. So I started reading that, and like really just started doing a lot of small things to kind of start healing. And I met a guy that really helped me kind of heal.
Yeah.
Just, feeling wanted and
like kind of change those feelings, like having a different relationship experience was like super helpful for you.
Yeah. And that's what the first time when we broke up for that like 3-4 months, the way I knew I broke up with him that day, which was, I never broke up with him, because of my attachment issues.
For
and
sure.
I knew if I didn't go like meet a guy that night or something, or like, I just needed just like one interaction with a guy to like get over that. So my friends were like, make a Tinder.
Yeah.
And I went and met a guy that night, and he's still my friend to this day. And
shout out to that guy.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you.
Shout out to that guy.
And he was so normal. He's like, he went to Virginia Tech, and he was a baseball player, and like he was just so normal. And like, I was like, oh my God. And he liked spending time with me. We hung out for like a couple weeks while he was in town. And I was like, how did I like, so it was a huge confidence booster.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then I about a year, less than a year later, I met my next boyfriend who happened to be a heroin addict. So,
and that's kind of who we talked about on the last show, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And that relationship was unhealthy, but not in a toxic way. Like, he never treated me bad.
For
he wasn't.
sure.
So then, when I
It's
met,
just different, unhealthy in different ways.
Yeah.
and I didn't know he was a heroin addict going into it at
Right.
all. And
Right.
I was 21. I was super naive.
So sorry, I just want to kind of jump in.
Yeah.
The first relationship was how long altogether, do you think?
It was about 3.5 years.
3.5 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's, being 16, 17,
Yeah.
going through that in high school. I didn't know people that were going through that. And
No.
I know people do, but, and I grew up in like a really rich, nice area. Like, you don't
It's
see
not the norm.
Yeah,
for sure.
not at
Yeah.
all. And very looked down upon. No one my best friend did not understand at all what was happening. Or,
Right.
she was just like, why are you with him? Like, why are you letting him
Yeah.
control you?
All right, everybody, we are breaking this episode into 2 parts because this story is big enough and transformative enough to where Dallas and I both agreed we wanted to do it in 2 parts. So listen, for the rest of Liz's story, to hear the triumph, the phoenix rising from the ashes, we're going to ask that you tune back in next week at our regularly scheduled time, Wednesday morning, so that you guys can check out the rest of Liz's story. In the meantime, if you're in a toxic relationship yourself, if there's something in your life that you need support with and you want the bros in your corner, shoot us an email, bettermentbros@gmail.com, and we'll feature you on the show. Or, hey, listen, we can tackle this situation off the air. It's completely up to you. And, we want to again thank Liz for coming all the way out, coming on the show, being vulnerable, being authentic, and sharing this crazy story of a toxic relationship. And like I said, you guys, I can't wait for next week's episode when we get to hear how Liz overcame all of this stuff and really created a life for herself. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see y'all next week.